So hello and welcome to Lewis Nichols Live Stories in association with Shane Solomon, and I'm really excited to bring on our guest today, Natalie Ann Jamieson. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you've just broke everyone's heart in the nation, it's fair to say. We're going to talk a lot more about that, but it must have been a bit of a whirlwind for you right now because everybody's talking about, of course, the sad death of Amy. So yeah, is it a bit crazy for you?
It's crazy. I on the night that Amy died on Emmerdale, I had hundreds, if not thousands, of messages, and I was like, "Whoa, hang on a minute!" I didn't realize it was going to have that kind of an effect. When we first read like the scripts and stuff coming up for it, and I was really, really keen to keep it a secret, how she died and everything, which obviously we can talk a bit more about. But yeah, when I saw the scripts, I was like, right, if we keep this a secret, I think it'll have a bit more of an impact. But I wasn't expecting it to have an impact where, yeah, I got like thousands of messages coming in from people. And the crazy thing was, like, usually in life, well, always in life, I would say, when you die, you don't receive the messages afterwards.
Yeah, so it's a weird experience
It's
for you.
really weird. It's like when you go to a funeral of somebody you love and you see those friends and family and you go, oh, we really need to stop meeting just at weddings and funerals. We should spend more time together. We should let everybody know how much they mean to us in life. And then you just forget as life kind of goes on. Feels a bit like that. Like I died and then everybody was like, I really didn't want you to die. And I'm like, it's really nice to know.
Is it weird though?
Bizarre.
Because you played this character now for so many years and, you know, you go into work, you then get into that character. So are you kind of in mourning yourself for the loss of the character?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am.
Oh.
When I did an interview the other day, I just wore an all black dress and I was like, I'm in mourning. I didn't say that in the interview. I just said that to my friends. I was like, I'm in mourning for Amy Wyatt. But yeah, it does feel like I'm in mourning because to play a character for 6 years, you really do become very attached to that character. I will always say if somebody goes, oh, I'm Amy Wyatt's biggest fan, I'm like, no, I'm Amy Wyatt's biggest fan. That's me. And it's true. Like, to see that character gone forever, it's going to take some getting used to and some adjusting to, because I loved her being in that village and being part of everybody's lives and being a part of my life. So yeah.
We're going to delve into that a lot more later, but I kind of want to go back now to the very beginning, which is where your love and passion for performing and acting came from. Did you kind of grow up around that?
So, yes and no. My mum used to work at John Lewis for years and years and years. And as part of that, she would get like trips to the theatre and stuff like that. And she would always take me to the theatre. So if I'm being very little, my mum would take me to the theatre and I would love watching the theatre. So I would be like 6 years old in watching Evita with everybody from John Lewis and everybody would be like, oh, she's so good. And I'd be like that. Just like fascinated with what was going on the stage. So I was really, I used to love watching people on the theatre and oh my goodness, I would love to be able to do something like that. But unfortunately, I can't sing. I can't sing a note. So I've never been able to get into musical theatre, but I just went down a different route. And that was kind of when I was in secondary school. There was a local theatre called Live Theatre, and they started doing after school sessions as a kind of outreach project to our school, which was a bit further afield and maybe I would say different kind of people to what they have traditionally in their youth theatre. And I joined that. And I just got really passionate about it. And then I kind of went on a bit of a mission and I was like, I think when we get to a certain age, we should be allowed to come straight into the youth theatre and be part of it, like bang in the middle of it. And they were like, yeah, okay then. And I was really flying the flag for us from the east end of the city to get into this live theatre. And yeah, we did it. And then we all started going to this youth theatre and we just had the best time. And I think for me, it was being surrounded by people who were like different to my immediate surroundings. I found fascinating. Like I was besotted with all these people. And then also just the style of the teaching, I would say, because the youth theatre leaders were just actors sharing their skills with us rather than, you know, how teachers kind of, they have a syllabus and they're just expecting you to learn things. And they're like, I'll teach you this and you remember it. And I was like, what? That wasn't like for my brain, whereas this person was like, this is what I do for a living and this is how I do it and let's all do it together. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I think it was the difference in the styles of like what people were expecting you to do, and it felt collaborative, and it felt like these people were asking me to explore things and ask questions, which never happens at school. At school, they're like, listen and learn. And I'm like, I don't want to.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah.
Because I read, I don't, I might be wrong, but you applied for like a drama school or something, but was rejected.
Well,
Or didn't get in.
It was about my third year of trying for drama school. So I did my youth theatre, and then I went to Newcastle College for 2 years. In my very, very first year of trying drama schools, I think I only tried a couple of them because it's quite expensive. You obviously have to travel to wherever it is. None of them are local to Newcastle. So you've got your train fare, you've got your overnight stay. You also have to pay for drama school auditions on top of that.
Wow.
So I was working like 2 jobs to pay for all of this. So I did as many as I could afford. And then I realised that the next year I was going to have to do them all to actually stand a chance of getting in somewhere. And I don't think I got in my second year. I think it was the year after that I got into Rose. I had a couple of offers that year, and Rose Bruford was the one that I had liked from the previous year before. But yeah, it can take a while to get into drama school. So I guess what they're doing is they're putting a cast together, and if they've already got somebody in the air that's a bit like you, or they're planning on doing a certain amount of plays that they think you're not going to be any good for, or something like that, sometimes it's not actually to do with you, especially in acting and performance. It's to do with what their vision is for something, and you have to get used very early to dealing with rejection in this business. But if you keep going, I think you'll find your place, and you'll find the right place for you. And I think it was my third year, but it's very expensive. So I was working a lot of jobs in the in between, and just kept going for it. I knew I would get in eventually.
Because you were doing like day shifts, but sometimes evenings and nights as well, so you were hungry from the very beginning. This is what you were going to do. You know, it wasn't ever handed to you. You went through the rejection. Do you think getting that rejection initially, like you just said then, gets you prepared? Because in this industry, I interview a lot of actors, and when they tell me that you could do a job and sometimes you don't hear back, or if you do, it's quite, nope, you're not good enough because of this, this and this. I would struggle with that. I think a lot of people would. So you have to be quite resilient, I'd imagine. You
have to be very resilient. I would say the first couple that I did, the year that I did not very many, and just got a little bit of a taste for it, I realised how different it was going to be to what I was prepared for. So then I had to spend a year, I was lucky. I was working, I was getting acting jobs as well, locally, like regional ones. So I wasn't just doing other jobs, but mostly to pay for anything, I was just doing other jobs. But getting used to what I was gonna need to be able to do there, and kind of how to do auditions and things like this. It's a completely separate skill that I wasn't ready for at that stage, and I just had to learn it. I had to learn how to audition, because auditioning is another kettle of fish to actually be in something, or doing something, or rehearsing it or something. Once you're in, like, the pressure's off, but the actual auditioning, I used to have nightmare with auditioning, especially if I was given something for like the next day, like just trying to get it into my head and be free enough with it in my head so that, the next day I could actually give a good performance of something. I would just, the stress, and it would just be like these words that were just in my head that I didn't have enough time to do anything with. And I used to be awful at it. And you just have to keep practicing. It's like, I guess it's like interviews. Like, the skill of interviewing is very different to the job itself, isn't it? And some people just go like, I would be so good at that job, but I was just so rubbish at the interview. It's a bit like that in some ways. And it's this huge thing that you just have to get used to doing. So, yeah.
So, like, obviously, we're going to go into Emmerdale in a minute, but so being on a show like Emmerdale, you get your script so regularly. How long do you get to memorise that script before you're filming? Like, is there quite a sufficient amount of time? Is it ever like a couple of days, for example?
It can be a couple of days. It depends. So you get your scripts. You would get your scripts for like the next 2 weeks sent to you on a Friday. Well, you get them, and then you get what order you're going to be filming them sent to you the week after. So once you've got that order, you can have a look at them and you can read them and be familiar with them, but you don't know what days you're filming. When you get that on the Friday, a lot of those you could be filming on the Monday. So
right.
say you're really busy and you've got 12 scenes on the Monday, you've got like the Saturday and Sunday to do that. But then you might also have 12 scenes on the Tuesday if you're really busy. I mean, sometimes you wouldn't, most of the time you wouldn't, but yeah, you kind of have to do it the night before largely. You can be familiar with it, but you learn scripts in a different way when you're doing it. When you're doing it for soap and it's continuing and it's every day, because you kind of learn it in a different part of your brain. So it's there and you're familiar with it and you know it enough to read it on set, go for it, do it a few times. And by the time you do the take, it's kind of in your head, solid enough, and you do your takes and then you finish. You kind of put it in the bin there and then you just kind of automatically delete it and move on to the next one.
Wow.
So that you've got enough brain space. But then sometimes they might go at the end of the day, oh, Lewis, you didn't have that watching when we filmed this.
Oh, so you have to
so we're going to have to do it again. And then you'd be like, but I've already deleted that scene. So then you genuinely have to go back to the start of the day and kind of relearn it. Your brain works in a very different way when you're doing all this. Do you know how I said earlier about like learning the audition skills? This is, again, it's a completely different skill to doing a play. Like when you know your journey from beginning to end and you have that massive like 2 hours of dialogue in your head and you just have to know it all. It's not like that at all. You have to know the length of a scene for like an hour and then chuck it away, and then the length of a scene for an hour, chuck it away, because you can't possibly keep 2 weeks worth of TV in your head. You just can't do it. Like a brain doesn't work like that.
Your brain's like a phone. Like you just delete to free up more room to record another video.
Exactly.
What would you say your big break was? Because I know you did Vera before Emmerdale. So for you, was that kind of your first taste of television, or did you have something prior?
Yeah, I think Vera was the first TV job I did.
What a show to do. I mean, it's iconic. And did you get to meet Brenda?
Yes, I worked with Brenda. So we had a scene. I had a couple of scenes actually, but just one of them ended up being in the show. So I had a scene in the hairdressers. I was the wife of the murderer. So yeah, she came in to interview me in the hairdressers, which was fun. So we was filming in this hairdressers in Newcastle, and it was amazing working in Newcastle because obviously that's where I'm from, and I knew a few of the crew and stuff like that. So that was fun. And then she came in to ask me a couple of questions, and her brother was actually on set that day, and he was sat in the back of shot.
Wow.
Yeah. He came in and he sat down just reading a newspaper as an extra. So not many people will know that. If you ever watch that episode, you'll now know. You can watch out for Brenda's brother. But yeah, she was amazing to work with. Really, really lovely lady. And then we went out the back, which we did another scene where I was standing out the back having a cigarette and telling her all the goss and stuff like that. But that was the scene that didn't end up getting used because I remember it was quite late at night and into the afternoon, and it was changing to like darkness, so we couldn't keep filming anymore. And on our last shot, I remember there was a motorbike that went through, and I got called down to ADR this scene. And then at some point they went, "Oh, it's all right, we don't need her for the ADR." And I thought they had just fixed it, but they hadn't. They had just chopped it.
Oh wow!
That's
really?
our industry. Yeah, they must have realised that, or thought, do we need that information from that character at that point? Or has somebody else given the same information? Can we get away with not having it?
You know, because that's your first job.
Yeah.
To be with someone like Brenda, is that stimulating because of how she's just like acting royalty? So was it like, oh my, this is my first job, I'm working with Brenda?
I was super nervous. And on that morning, you know how I said earlier, like I'm not good with like when you get scripts and you got to do them really quickly. Obviously I'm a bit better now because of Emmerdale, but at that point I still was not. And I got there and they gave me a pink, which was like a change of some of the lines, but it was quite a lot of change for me at that point in my career. And I was like, panic. And I think I had to change the day, and so there was quite a bit of change. So I was sitting panicking quite a lot about this, but we were in makeup at the same time, and she was just chatting away, and I couldn't not chat away to Brenda Blethyn. I was like really panicking about these lines that I had to change. So I had a bit of a sweat on, to be honest.
I would as well. I mean, what a story and what a memory.
Yeah.
But I want to obviously Emmerdale. I mean, when you join a show like Emmerdale, your life changes. You become a household name. You're part of people's lives. I mean, you were talking to Helen and Wendy earlier on. It's part of people's everyday life, you know. And so, how did that come about for you? The opportunity, was it kind of you auditioned and then got the part?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the audition process was quite a bit longer than that. So my agent sent me, at first it was a self-tape. So I got the breakdown and the sides and I did self-tape. And actually, we knew who the character was because this was a recast and we remembered the previous character. And my partner's nan always used to say to me, oh, you really remind me of that girl off Emmerdale, because she's a massive Emmerdale fan. And Ali was like, is that the one me nan talks about? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, that's good then, because she's always said you're similar. And I was like, well, that is good. Yeah, that could go in my favour. So yeah, I was doing that tape and I did it. I think we sent back my first take. I did a take and Ali was like, yep, good, smashed it, done, don't do another one. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, because I think that was enough. I think that was good. I think you know the character well, just send it. And I was like, okay. So we did. And then I got called back, which was great. So I was like, oh, phew, because that could have gone either way. So yeah, I went in and the next round was doing the same thing again, but with the casting directors. And then I got through that round. And then the next round, and by the way, all of the time, each round that I'm going into is a lot of like people that I know, friends that are actors from Newcastle. So we keep seeing each other at every round and going, yay, you're back, you're back, you're back.
So you're happy for each other, that you want it as well.
And then going out for a coffee afterwards. It was lovely, actually. So we, the third round was like a workshop where we had to pair up and one of us would play Amy and the other one would play another character. So that was really weird because you don't quite know what to do when you're playing the other character. You have to help the other person who's playing Amy, but you're thinking, but I want to be playing Amy because that's the part I want to do. So that was bizarre, but obviously we did fine. And then the last stage, there was like 6 of us went in, and that's when you do your screen test. And it was with Laura, who plays Kerry, and each of us go on and we do the scene a couple of times, and they get that all on camera, and the producers are there and stuff like that. And then you have to wait and see.
And look at the chemistry and see if it just works. That's crazy. It sounds like you could have had like an X Factor process on TV of just that casting alone. But were you nervous playing a recast? Because I always imagine it must be daunting because people get familiar with a character and an actor. You know, same when you watch like EastEnders, they'll recast somebody and you think, oh, you know, is this going to work? Were you nervous initially, thinking how would I be received by the audience?
Yes, very. My friend Maddie was on EastEnders at the time, and I was explaining about doing this recast, and I was saying I was nervous, and she was like, essentially, you've got a new head. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
She was like, because obviously they've had recasts as well, even within her immediate family on EastEnders. And she was like, it is odd for the people watching at first because soap fans, they love their soaps. You mean a lot to them. You're in their living room every night. Soap fans are the best. And but at first it takes them a while if you're playing a character that they've already made a bond with and they love. Yeah. They're just used to that character having a different face. I mean, it's very strange if somebody just goes a different face. So I get it. So I was really nervous. But the producers were great. They just said to me, and the casting directors, they were like, Nat, you just have to make this part your own. Like, remember what Amy was. Just be confident. She's not been here for, I think she wasn't there for maybe 4 to 6 years or something. She's been away a long time. She's moved on in her life. When you come back, you're bringing that part of Amy, but you're also bringing like everything that she's experienced in Ireland, and this, like, there's a new side to her anyway. So just be confident in your choices and make her your own. Yeah. Because we're confident you can do that. And I was like, okay.
Do you know, when you look at sometimes a recast, you think it doesn't work sometimes. I've watched shows, I'm like, but with you, it's almost like you very much connected to what Amy is and what she's all about. And I think that's why it's worked so much. I mean, look at what you've done to the nation with the death of Amy. I mean, the amount of messages on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, people were just sobbing. So, I mean, you've done the character justice, that's for sure. But Can you remember going on set for the first time? Because did you watch it yourself kind of growing up?
Yeah, I used to watch it with my grandma when I was little. I remember watching Emmerdale with her years and years and years ago. I probably missed out on bits of it when I moved away from home and stuff like that. But I still was checking in with it. I still remember a lot of what Chelsea did with Amy and what was going on in it. I think sometimes with soaps, even if you did watch it when you were little, you can jump back into it and pick up with it really quickly, can't you? Because you remember so much about that world and how it works and what's happening there. Like when people watch EastEnders on Christmas Day every year. Some people don't watch it through the year at all, and then they'll watch it on Christmas Day.
And they just know what's going on.
And they just get it. They know how it works. You know what, So yeah, I did know enough, and I went back and did some research and stuff like that, and watched some of that stuff. Yeah.
When you're on set for the first time, were there any kind of characters that you saw, like, oh my God, that's Paddy, or one of the Dingles, and kind of get a little bit in awe or starstruck?
Loads.
Who in particular?
I remember one of my first scenes was Amy walking up Main Street, outside of the wool pack, and she comes face to face with a load of Dingles, and her first story was that she was coming back to take Kyle off Kane. Yeah. And they were like, absolutely not, I don't think so. And it was like Debbie, Moira, Chaz, maybe Charity as well. It was just like all of the Dingle women, and I was just like, oh,
that's incredible.
How am I supposed to do one of my first scenes, given at large, little Amy Wyatt with the new face that nobody knows, against these four formidable soap icons? And I was just like, I'm in too deep here.
Oh no. Were they welcoming to you?
Really welcoming. Everyone's so lovely. But you do, if you've got a big Woolpack day and you've got a massive story where somebody's kicking off like that, and you're the person who's at the forefront of it, for anyone, even if they've been there for a long time, it can be very nerve-wracking, because you're kind of used to working with the people that you work with a lot. And then when you get those big ones and it's just everybody sitting looking at you, every legend of soap that's been there for 30 years or something, just all sitting watching you, and you're kicking off or snogging someone or something like that, and you're like, oh.
What about when you went into the Woolpack for the first time? Were you oh my God?
Real beer.
Sorry?
Real beer.
What? That's what they drink?
We did drink real beer. I think it's very, very recently changed. That'll break everybody's hearts to know that. But we did drink real beer from years and years and years when I first got there. If you got a pint, there's one certain one that's real beer, and you can sit and drink it. So if you've got a day where you're at a wedding or something, and they say, what do your character drink? What does your character drink? I would always say, oh, she drinks pints, because then I could have a pint of beer. So not if it was a really busy day and you had lots to do.
Be tipsy in a scene.
Yeah, because honestly, when you've had a couple of drinks, even just a couple of sips, and if you make the mistake of going at the end of this scene, my character necks it and walks out, you can absolutely guarantee that you'll need to do that take at least 6 times, and you're not driving home from work. But real beer.
Wow, so you go in there doing Emmerdale, and then you leave, and it's like Geordie Shore. You're just necking loads of pints.
Like I say, we only it's real beer, but we when you know it's real beer, and if you've got takes to do, you will just have a tiny little thing. But it's just exciting to know it's real beer.
Did you know when your first episode went out? Did you watch it with your family? Was it a big thing where you all came together to watch your kind of moment?
What did I do on my? I think I watched it with my partner. We definitely had. So it was a little bit like my exit. I kept it a secret that I was going in. I kept my secret, my entrance, a secret as well. And I told my family on Christmas. We were having a party just before Christmas, and I told them on that day. And my boyfriend was secret filming to get everybody's reactions.
No way! Have you got the video?
I do have it somewhere.
See that.
It's so on his phone, not mine.
That's amazing.
He will have it, so I think. Yeah.
That must have been a shock and a half.
Yeah.
I'm on one of the nation's biggest TV programs. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all watch it, so it was amazing. But yeah, I think on my actual first ep, I was busy. I was filming when I went in. I was really, really busy. So my first on the night time that was airing, I was still filming other stuff for Emmerdale. So yeah, it was like with my partner and some people like in nearby. But yeah, I didn't get to go back and watch it with my Newcastle family. But everybody was very excited.
Obviously, with a soap, we all feel like we know the characters. We watch every single day, and you build a kind of a love for them. So, how much did your life change in the first kind of few weeks of just being on screen? Was it kind of walking down the street? Oh my God, I've seen you on Emmerdale. Did it change dramatically?
Yeah, it did. There was a few things that I remember. Firstly, Amy's first storyline was shooting in Belfast, and we went over there and we shot over there for a week. And I was with some of the legends that we've been talking about. So we had Marlon, we had Paddy, Dominic's, and then me mum, Kerry, Sandra, Marv was there. These people, if they were walking down the street in Ireland, in Belfast, Northern Ireland, people would like stop them or scream or run up to them, or like it was like chaos. And it's not like that in Leeds, I must say, but like it was so exciting. And it was a little bit like, I always say it was like going away with the Beatles. It was like crazy how like people would just be like, ah! And everywhere we filmed, there was like loads of people like lining up to watch and stuff like that. And I was like, this is crazy. Is that what it's like being on Emmerdale? And they were like, technically, no. You've come in at this really bizarre moment where everybody's just very excited for us to be there. And I was like, okay. So I didn't get used to that. But then when I first came on screen, people would stop me and say, oh, you Amy on Emmerdale? And I'd be like,
that's such a surreal moment.
And then we had the storyline where Amy had somebody come back from Ireland that was trying to get some money out of her, and she was blackmailing her. And Kerry and Amy went to get the money from the Kerry robbed the factory for the money, and then they went back to get rid of the evidence on the CCTV, and we had the factory fire explosion. Yeah. And then in this, a very, very beloved character died called Frank. And the storyline was that we felt really, really guilty for it because we had smashed the CCTV. So we had essentially started the fire that this character died in. But the way that it was written, a lot of it would be like when we were talking to each other, being like, it's our fault, we've killed Frank. And then a lot of people just started going, you killed Frank.
Wow.
But then I would get that in the street. Like sometimes people would be like, oh, Emmerdale, I love Emmerdale, but you killed Frank. And I'd be like, sorry.
It must be hard for people to actually separate it sometimes because you're so invested.
It is, but actually people would say that and then they'd laugh and they'd go like, no, obviously we love Emmerdale, like you're doing a great job and stuff like that. Like I say, Emmerdale fans are gorgeous. They're the best.
And it was so good for you because, like, if you would say Corrie or EastEnders, if you go in and your story is centred with the Mitchells or in Corrie, the Barlows, it was like that for you with the Dingles, with Kane, and, you know, you're in the middle of that. So that's always going to be exciting when those scripts come in because you're always going to work with some of the biggest iconic characters on the show. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is with scripts, do you get like an emotional connection? So when you read them, do you feel the emotion that the character would feel when you're playing that part? So, like, do you read it and go, oh, my God, and, like, start to kind of well up?
Yes. Yeah, you do. I do. I would say even more so, like, the longer that you're there, because you do kind of, you and your character do kind of, like, mix a little bit, like, as in, like, the thought process and kind of, the longer you've been there, the things that you put into your character and the way you play certain things that your character might do, I think the writers would pick up on, and then they'll start to maybe write your character a little bit. Like you start to shape the character as much as they do in some ways. So when you read things, especially if it's been written by a writer that like really hears your voice when they're writing, certain writers really have a very good way of just writing it exactly how they think you're going to say it. And you're like, those ones in particular, you straight away you know that they've had like your voice in the head. And yeah, if you get the storylines coming through that are like deep and meaningful and stuff like that, and the way that it's been written, you hear like your voice, like Amy's voice, and the way that you think, that you've kind of shaped it, then that's when it starts to become really like, really sad.
Well, I've got to talk about the limo crash, of course, and when I knew you were coming on the show months ago, I thought, we'll be talking about your upcoming storylines. I didn't think we'd be talking about the death of the character. And it was such a shock. So going back to the very beginning, when you kind of found out that there's going to be this huge storyline for you where your character's going to exit and you're going to be part of this kind of cinematic genius, how did you feel about that? So did they tell you and kind of go through what the story would be? Were you excited by it?
Yeah, so all of the emotions, I went through every single one of them. So like getting to grips with not being at Emmerdale anymore, not working with those people anymore every single day, all of that kind of thing, that was where all of the sadness was. I was really just, 6 years, I figured out that was longer than I was at school for, wasn't it? Like, that's a long time to be like working with the same people. So they do kind of be, I know it's always a cliche when people say like it becomes like family and stuff, but it doesn't. There will be people there that I'll have seen in the last 6 years more than I've seen my family, for sure. So you have to get your head around all of that kind of stuff, and that is sad. But then reading the script, so at first I was like told like kind of the arc of the story and what was going to happen, and I was quite excited. But then reading the scripts again, like it was both of those things, like seeing like you could tell when you were reading these scripts that these episodes were going to be big, and this crash and the people who were in it and what was happening and the cliffhanger. I think there was about 5 episodes that Amy was the cliffhanger for. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. But then I would get to so that reading the underwater stuff and being like, how am I going to do that? Like, are they expecting me to go under the water? Do I have to? And then like, chatting through like, so you'll just dive into the water and you'll do all this, and then we'll dunk you in this freezing cold water at 2:00 in the morning and stuff like that. That stuff, I was petrified for some of it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself a challenge. Everything I'm asked to do, I'll attempt to do it at least once. And if I don't feel comfortable with it, I'll be brave enough to say, I don't feel comfortable with this. Please, can we put in a stunt double? And that was the deal I made with myself. And I was just really pleased I made that deal with myself, because I did everything and I tried everything, and I was all right with everything. And we got everything on tape that we needed to get on tape. So that was the kind of like more anxious, scared side of it. But then reading the scenes, the hospital scenes where Amy, like Kerry said goodbye to Amy and Matty said goodbye to Amy, and Kyle said, please don't die, Mum, and stuff like that. Oh, they broke my heart. And then Amy's last words, I love you, to Matty. I was a mess when I was reading that script.
It was just, it was too much. It was like Titanic. It was, why have you done this?
It was a lot, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember reading that script, and I was just sitting crying alone with a little tear-stained Emmerdale script.
How was it filmed? So obviously we saw the limo and it goes into the lake, but was that a swimming pool, I imagine?
Yeah, so we had, I started filming this back in November. So I've known about this storyline since probably about like August last year.
How do you keep things so quiet? Because you didn't tell anyone about this. Like you're good at like being able to keep a secret.
I think I'm too good, aren't I?
Yeah, it's worrying. Quite good. It makes me think now you probably know about a big project you're doing and you're just not telling us. And then in a few months, I'm like, did you know about? Because couldn't tell you. I feel like, okay, yeah. So.
But no, I'm really good at keeping secrets. I found that out in August. And then, it was November that I first started filming in the tank. So it was it's a swimming pool that you do like paddy diving in when you're learning to do deep sea diving. But I had to do it in my costume. Yeah. So I'm in my leather jacket and my Dr. Martens, diving 3 meters down, like doing the
with your ears.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've never done anything like that before. So I needed to learn how to do that, come back up, and they were like, how are you? And I was like, I am knackered. It was so tiring. And then I was like, I feel a bit like, and they were like, you just need to get used to it. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I got used to all that. And then next week we were just in there filming. And when we went back, what they had done was they had the pool, they had lined it all with black cloth, so it was dark under there. We had this big tree with the body that was wrapped up in tarpaulin and a hand coming out with the bracelet on. So that was down there, which wasn't there when I was previously practicing. So that was a good obstacle for me to play with. We had on the top these 2 big sheets of plastic with a hole in, so that was for the banging from underneath.
That's what the ice was?
That was when we were in the pool.
Yeah.
So that was there. And then we had some torch lights going down, and that was the headlights from the limo. And then I had like 2 divers, and there was the guy with the camera, and then there was a guy who could come over and give me some oxygen. If I did it 2 ways. I either went down with a big deep breath and did as much as I could and came back up, or I started at the bottom and on the oxygen and then went up.
Wow.
But because I had a wetsuit under all of this stuff, it was making me more buoyant than when I practiced. So I also had to have 2 weights in my pocket weighing me down. So then when I got to the point where I was like, okay, ready to go up now, I couldn't swim up as fast as I wanted to. And I think at some point he would go, I think she's panicking now. We'd come over and...
I could not. How did you do that? That sounds horrific. First of all, a weight on myself to put me down would make me panic. Yeah. I thought you had like your own oxygen. I didn't know you had to kind of hold your breath, get this little thing, and then carry on. Wow.
Yeah, because it was... obviously, Amy didn't have any oxygen or anything like that. I said, I think Amy was always panicking when she was under the water, obviously, which made it a bit easier for me in a way, because I thought, it's just Amy panicking, I'm fine. But I think sometimes they didn't know if it was Amy, so they were double careful.
Are you okay?
Yeah. You okay?
Was it cold, or was it like a heated pool?
It was cold. It was heated. So it wasn't freezing, but it was still cold. The amount of time that I had to be in there for, I was getting cold. I was like, I'm just not used to being underwater for that long.
You know, when you got out of the limo and then you're walking on the ice, what was that you were walking on?
So that's a different setup. So that's a big, they've recreated in our car park near work, they've recreated the ice. So it's like on a platform and it's covered in wax. And the wax, on the bits where I fall through into the cold water, which that water was freezing.
Wow.
That was awful.
So like the cold breath was probably legit.
Yeah, if you ever saw cold breath, that was for real, because that was freezing, that water. So that was like, they had like under some bits like a hole filled with water, and on the top of that they would make the wax a bit thinner, and just before the take they'd pour a bit of hot water on it so it would be thinner, and then when you got to that bit you would fall through into the water. So that's what I had to do. That was the bit that I was most scared of, actually, because I knew the water was going to be freezing. It was like 2:00 in the morning. It was the middle of the night. It was cold anyway. I had my wetsuit on, but then my costume. And I thought, it's fine if I go to like here because of my wetsuit, but the character obviously needs to go all of the way under.
Yeah.
And this was the bit I was really worried for. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, if I can put my like head under that cold water. But I did it.
That's like, so the nerves that we see when you're walking is probably legit because you know what's about to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be so cold.
So if I'm a celebrity, get me out of here comes calling, I think you'll do absolutely fine. The heights, the water tasks, I don't think you're going to struggle.
I love to pretend I would.
Put a few crocodiles under that lake and you're fine. You got yourself 10 stars. The story was, do you know what I loved about this was, we didn't know about it. Sometimes in soaps now they announce what's going to happen, and it takes away that thrill of not knowing, the excitement. But with this, you know, especially with Amy, there were times you thought, oh, there's hope, and it made you feel relaxed. She's okay. She's on the monitor. No one saw it coming. Do you think that was kind of the genius behind the story?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When they said, you know, we'd love to keep it a secret, I was like, I would love to keep it a secret. I just think that's you get real magic moments, don't you, in soap? Because like you say, we get spoilers for a lot of things, like some things purposefully, so like, you know, because it's the best way to introduce the story. But for things like this, when it's like an exit or a shock like that, like I do think, to have it that nobody knew, and then for everybody to watch it happen in real time. So for people not, because those every single day they would have just went, oh, well, she's going to die, so she will die at the end of this ep. Oh, no, she's still alive. Oh, she must die at the end of this. Oh, no, she's still... So none of those cliffhangers would have had any impact.
Yeah.
So by the time it got to the Friday and she was still hanging on, I think people thought she's definitely going to make it. And then she didn't. The Thursday that was, so yeah.
How fitting was it that the last words that Amy said was, I love you? You know, it was so kind of... It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so iconic because it's... And then she just fades. And you've got the emotion, you've got everybody else's reaction and the shock factor. I think everything put together was just the perfect ending. So, you know, a lot of people kind of say to you, you know, you must have been sad to leave the show. And I guess in that you form a family, like you said, so you're grieving that character, but also as an actor to have that legacy that you can always look back and think, wow, I was part of probably one of the biggest stories ever in soap. And I've watched a lot of soaps and I've never seen anything filmed like that. The shots, the angles... It was fantastic. So you must be proud.
I'm so proud. It was beautiful, wasn't it? What the director did, Vicky Thomas, she just, those set of episodes were incredible. They were so beautiful to watch. She was telling us along the way, like little bits of music. She was saying like, and I think I'll use this here. And she would play you a little bit and then we'd all be like,
so you had genuine emotions.
yeah. And you'd be like, you could see the vision she had for it. I didn't know it was going to look that good. I did not know it was going to look that good. So I couldn't be prouder to just have been a part of an iconic soap like that, played an iconic character, and then to go out on episodes that, like you say, I think for soap, like they will go down in history because they've done something so different. And like everybody was talking about it for days and days and days. Yeah.
With acting talent in soap, it's up there, but sometimes when you watch it, you know you're watching a soap, but with this, it felt like you were watching a blockbuster movie. It really, you were like, whoa, hang on a minute, and the tension, everything about it. So yeah, you did amazing. You really did. To get the audience to react in that way must make you realise I did something right there, because it's okay playing a character, but connecting with your audience is different, and you did that in abundance. So
Thank you.
And we're all sad. I mean, you've got two fans in the audience there that you spoke to before. And by the way, there is only 3 people in the audience, so people thinking only 2 were fans. But genuinely, like, that could have sounded bad. But what's next for you now?
Yeah, what's next for me now? So I'm really excited. I'm auditioning again, and
are you pretending now? You know what you're doing, but you're just not saying.
Nobody's ever going to trust me again. This is a bad look for me. I need to stop telling everyone I'm a really good liar, don't I? I'm a terrible liar. I don't have anything I can tell you genuinely, but I'm excited. I have just watched some incredible TV over the past week or two, and I'm really excited about what's being made at the minute over here in the UK. There's some really good writers around, there's some really good TV being made. To be able to be back in the mix of actually being able to audition for these things and being able to talk to these people is very exciting.
You know what I could see you in if they bring it back? Line of Duty.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that would be something you would, and I think you've shown everyone what you can do. You know, the versatility as an actor. So I think that phone's going to be ringing, and I'm looking forward to what's next. But
you produce the next Line of Duty.
give you a call. What was the reaction from your family to those scenes that aired? So what was kind of the general feeling? Because I'm imagining there was a lot of tears.
I think so. I specifically said to my mum, I said to her, look, I don't think you should watch this exit. And she was like, I can separate Amy from Natalie. And I was like, yeah, everybody, I'm not saying that I can, but I think it's very sad. I thought it was very traumatic when I was there. I just think there's going to be something about watching these last few eps. And she, the first 2, the really exciting ones with the water and stuff like that, she was like, I'm fine. I told you I would be. And then after the hospital one, she was like, I think you were right. And I was like,
Were you invited to the funeral scenes to watch? I know it's a weird thing to put.
I wasn't invited, but I remember when they were doing the order of service and stuff like that, they had they were getting in touch and being like, oh, we need a photo. Can we get a photo of you? And I was like, let me come in and get my Amy makeup on and we'll take a photo, because I said, I think it's going to be weird if it's a photo of me on the front of an order of service. Yeah. I know maybe people watching might not know that that it's a Natalie photo rather than an Amy photo. But they might, because Amy was a bit of a kooky dresser. Oh, well, says me. Says me. But yeah, I would have known it was a Natalie photo. So I was like, let me come in and do an Amy photo, because I think it's going to be weird seeing my face on the front of an order of service. And then as soon as they started doing it, my friend Johnny was there and he sent me a picture and he was like, have you got a copy of this, by the way? And it was like the order of service for Amy Wyatt, and it was like the photo on the front. I say Amy Wyatt, she's Amy Barton now, she's married, but I just call her Amy Wyatt all the time. So it probably says Amy Barton, actually. But yeah, it was still just it was the Amy photo. I was in costume and I was like, it still just remarkably looks like my face on the front of the order of service.
Not a nice thing at all.
It's really weird. So no, I wasn't there for it. The funeral is on telly this Thursday. So maybe I'll watch it. Apparently it was beautiful. People kept telling me every time when I went to my leaving party and stuff, because they were filming it, and they were like, oh, your funeral was beautiful. Ash did such a good job when he was doing this, that and the other, like Matty and Buddy. And I was like, oh, and they were like, they've all done you proud. And I was like, oh, good.
And you're going to keep in touch with them. You've made friendships that are going to last a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been amazing having you on, and I'm hoping you're going to enjoy the rest of your time in Cornwall.
Thank you. I'm sure I will. It's absolutely beautiful, and the sun is shining.
I know you've picked a good few days. So, yes. Everyone give a round of applause, Natalie Ann Jamieson. Thank you so much.